Hi everybody, it's Melissa one last time. So far I've given you a short description of the unofficial family archivist, and I read a fairly long passage, I guess, from a professional project on which I worked at the Waltham Public Library, which is a part of my book. I want to read you a couple passages that show some of the more personal things I get into in the book to use as examples for you and how you can better create your own personal archives. I'm going to start with my favorite story, which is a little silly, because I have a very silly niece. The book is actually dedicated to my daughter and my nieces as the next generation who I hope to pass my papers on to. So this one section is called Communication Tools. Are you listening and taking note? Very often things pass by us in our lives and we don't think of writing them down. Little things in life that are important to us at the time, but then we forget about over time because we just kind of shove it in the back of our memories and have no record of it. Here's an example of that. For a while, every few weeks, I would get a voicemail from my 4-year-old niece. It went like this. Hello? 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 Miriam was reaching out through a very impermanent communication tool. The telephone generally allows us to express a thought, transferring the idea to someone else without recording it for posterity. However, there are times when this tool crosses into the realm of archives, such as when my niece leaves me a recording that I want to save to remember my funny phone calls from her. Her personality is encapsulated in her voice on those calls. I can save the recording and keep it as part of my personal archives with a note explaining its context, of course. Maybe something you've never thought about before. One of the things I hope people will think about when they're putting together their own personal collection or thinking about their papers is capturing a sense of place, a sense of what really makes them them. And I've thought about this a lot because my parents were raised in New York City. I was raised in a suburban environment on Long Island in New York, and my daughter is being raised in a more rural suburban area. So I talk in the book a little bit about a sense of place. The backdrop to your personal story provides a valuable bit of information toward the understanding of your personal history, but it is one of those intangible elements that you will likely need to consciously convey and incorporate into your documentation efforts. A setting can influence us and the events around us in poignant ways. Who am I has been influenced by the places I have lived. For example, I grew up in a suburban environment in a town about 45 minutes outside of New York City. I could walk to school and to the grocery store. Wildlife consisted of birds, bugs, and an occasional raccoon in the garbage. Sidewalks were the norm, and my cul-de-sac enabled me to learn to ride my bike without fear of being hit by a car. I now live in a more rural suburban environment. I need a vehicle to get almost anywhere. The hills are too big for easily learning to ride a bike. I've had deer, fox, and fisher cats in my yard. If you don't know what a fisher cat is, you should look it up. They're kind of funny-looking creatures. Frogs keep me up at night instead of traffic, and friends have told me that there is a bear in the neighborhood. My formative years were certainly different from my daughter's early years, and her sense of self has a distinctly New England, New Hampshire tinge to it. When we visit a city, she's struck by all the people and buildings, noting them as distinctly different from her norm. The place from which we come gives us shared memories with other community members. The place may also deeply impact us so that our otherness is obvious to others. Transmitting remembrances about our spaces is vital toward helping others understand us. One who lives in the inner city will have a different perspective than one who lives in the country. A person of a particular nationality will also have alternate views from someone from another place. Explaining these differences is vital toward promoting harmony among diverse groups and can help us better understand ourselves and each other. Try to capture your environment in your documentation work. Use visual tools to relay your setting to others. Describe what makes the place or places you have lived unique. Try to convey how your sense of place has impacted you. Use sense of place as a thread through your documentation work, or focus exclusively on it by describing the setting directly. To convey your sense of place, think about the location itself. Consider the buildings, natural elements, and infrastructure that you recognize as your own. Also mull over the cultural environment that your residence has that makes it unique. What characteristics of the community reflect its uniqueness? What language, ideas, history, and recurring events are distinct elements of this place? So by thinking about some of these things, and then by giving you methods by which you can implement or put into action making sure these things are documented. I hope that this book will help you get a better understanding of your own personal papers and help you create a collection that is more valuable to you. Thank you very much again.